There are pleasure switches in a woman's brain that she cannot resist, no matter how rational she tries to be. At times, paradoxically, not saying, "I like you," can make her like you even more. A certain psychologist once left us with that insight. So if your love life isn't going well right now, it might not be due to a lack of effort, sincerity, or good intentions. It might simply be because you're using an approach that doesn't align with how the female brain is wired to respond. You may have been kind, thoughtful, and completely attentive to her needs. You've given your time, your energy, your words. But then, almost suddenly, her reactions begin to change. They become colder, less enthusiastic, less emotionally engaged. And before you even realize it, the distance between you starts to grow wider. What's going on here? The answer might not lie in who she is or what she's thinking consciously. It might be in the deep structure of the brain itself. As human beings, we experience pleasure and excitement, not just through comfort, but through unpredictability. Romantic feelings are sparked when the brain receives a particular kind of stimulus. That means that even a simple phrase like, "I love you," spoken too frequently or at the wrong moment, can backfire emotionally. And that is exactly why just being kind, honest, and dependable often stops feeling enough to her over time. It's not that those things are bad, they're just missing the activation of something deeper, something instinctual. You need to know where those pleasure switches are and press them at the right time. When you do that, her emotional response begins to shift, often without her even understanding why. Her instincts start to lean toward you, even if her rational mind notices what's happening. And that is the power of appealing not only to her thoughts, but to her core emotional circuitry. Let's talk about the first switch, a subtle but powerful one that most people think they're using correctly, but often miss by a mile. Don't just understand, translate. When a woman comes to you with a problem, what do you usually say? "Hang in there. Don't worry about it." These are well-meaning phrases, full of kindness, and often you've heard the golden rule. Don't give solutions, just empathize. So you nod. You say, "Wow, that must have been hard." But while that's better than dismissing her, it still doesn't go deep enough. Because what truly moves the heart isn't mere understanding. It's the ability to translate. Translation means expressing in words the very emotion she herself has not yet fully articulated. Imagine she sighs and says, "I'm just tired." A surface-level response might be to nod and say, "Yeah, I get it. Long day." But true emotional resonance comes from gently reflecting something deeper. Maybe you've been spending all day trying to adapt to everyone else's mood, and it's worn you out. At that moment, something clicks inside her. She feels seen in a way she didn't expect. Or suppose she says, "My boss said something that really pissed me off." Sure, you can say, "That sounds frustrating, and that's good." But take it one step further. Maybe it felt like no one's really noticing how hard you're trying lately. Suddenly, her vague anger finds a shape, a name, a mirror. That's the power of translation. And no, it's not about being a mind reader. It's not guessing. It's about tuning in deeply enough to gently name the feeling that's still a little blurry inside her. When someone does that for us, puts into words something we hadn't quite identified yet, our brain lights up. We feel understood. We feel safe. Not every attempt will hit the bullseye. Sometimes she'll say, "No, that's not it." But even then, the process begins. She'll start clarifying her own emotions, sorting through the fog inside her. And she'll remember you as the person who helped her begin that journey. That emotional spark you triggered? It matters far more than logic ever will. You can't get to this level by merely listening passively or repeating what she says. This kind of resonance comes only from being deeply present and emotionally attuned. Women can feel when you're really there, really listening, not with your ears, but with your entire being. To develop this ability, start noticing the emotion behind the words. Most emotional responses are layered. Surface anger may hide a sense of rejection. Withdrawal might be masking disappointment. A cheerful voice might be covering exhaustion. Look for the emotional temperature, not just the words. When she's irritated, is her tone sharp, or just a little rushed, as if she's holding something in? When she smiles, does it reach her eyes? If she goes quiet, is there a subtle sadness in her posture? These details speak volumes. Noticing them allows you to access the world beneath the surface, where real emotional connection is forged. Think about how it feels when you open up to someone and they say, "Maybe what you're really feeling is," and they get it right. That sudden jolt of, "Yes, that's exactly it," is unforgettable. From a neurological perspective, those moments release oxytocin and dopamine in the brain, chemicals tied to bonding, trust, and pleasure. This is why love is not just about being nice, it's about emotional resonance. But that resonance fades if all you offer are surface-level compliments and predictable affirmations. Which brings us to something that feels counterintuitive. The more you tell her she's beautiful, the less she might feel moved by it over time. You might think that complimenting her every day with, "You're so cute," or "You're amazing," will make her feel valued. And at first it does, but over time, it can have the opposite effect. Why? Because the brain is designed to filter out repeated stimuli. The first time she hears it, her heart may flutter. The 10th time it starts to blend into background noise. It's like buying a new perfume. The scent lifts your mood for a few days, but eventually your brain decides it already knows it and stops reacting. Compliments work the same way. If they become routine, they lose their emotional power. What actually causes the brain to release dopamine, the chemical behind motivation and desire, is unpredictability. That feeling of not knowing when the next compliment or warm gesture will come. It's the surprise that sparks pleasure, not the repetition. So it's not about stopping compliments altogether. It's about how you deliver them, how you let them breathe. Think of validation like a flame. Blow on it too hard and it burns out. Never tend it, and it dies. The key is to feed the emotional fire with just enough space and timing to keep it alive, which is why you should express only about 30% of what you feel, and let the remaining 70% remain a mystery, at least for now. That 70% of unspoken emotion doesn't mean you're holding back love. It means you're letting it build its own weight, letting it echo deeper when it finally reaches her. Silence is not the absence of feeling. It's the space that gives feeling meaning. So when you finally do compliment her, when you finally say something thoughtful and sincere, it won't feel routine. It will feel rare. It will feel chosen. And that's what makes it matter. Let's take a simple example. She gets a new haircut. The typical reaction? Immediate praise. "Wow, it looks amazing." While that may seem sweet, if it becomes expected, if every change is immediately met with validation, it slowly loses its impact. Instead, you let a day pass. Then casually, with soft sincerity, you say something like, "You know, this new style really changes your vibe in a good way." Suddenly, that compliment carries a deeper message. "I noticed, I remembered, and I've been quietly appreciating you." That delayed recognition strikes her heart more powerfully than 10 hurried praises ever could. This same principle applies not only to appearance, but even more so to her character. Don't just praise how she looks, compliment how she thinks, how she carries herself. The small kindnesses no one else seems to notice. When you say, "I admire the way you handle situations like that," or "I saw how much effort you put into that, even if nobody else did," you send a powerful message. I see you, not just your image. but your essence. And when a woman feels seen in that way, she doesn't just feel attractive, she feels understood. She feels valued not as a surface, but as a soul. And that kind of recognition lingers in her heart long after the moment has passed. It isn't the frequency of praise that moves her, it's the depth. 1,000 shallow comments don't compare to one moment of genuine recognition. But to make that impact, you must also observe how she reacts to different kinds of praise. Some women shy away from compliments, not because they don't like them, but because they're not used to receiving genuine validation. If she looks down and says, "That's not true," while blushing or turning away, it doesn't mean she wants you to stop. It may mean she's not sure how to accept being truly seen. Others may overly praise you for small things, and this often hides a deeper need, the desire to be recognized themselves. The way someone compliments others often reveals how they wish to be complimented. Learn from that. Adapt to that. Don't use one-size-fits-all praise. Let your words match the emotional language she understands best. Validation is a delicate tool in love. Used right, it draws her closer. Used too bluntly, it loses its power, or worse, creates distance. When everything is said too openly, too quickly, you remove the mystery that makes connection magnetic. It's like showing all your cards in the first round of a game. There's no tension, no room left for imagination. And when imagination dies, so too does emotional longing. Which is why the next switch is so essential. Make her almost understand, but not fully. It's a strange truth. Men who say everything too early, who reveal every detail of their life, who are completely transparent from day one, often find that their relationships lose passion faster. At first, the honesty is refreshing. But then, slowly and silently, her feelings begin to fade. You're still the same person, still kind, still available. But something's missing. That spark, that emotional grip. Here's why. When a woman feels like she knows everything about you, yes, she may feel safe, but she no longer feels curious. Emotional engagement requires a sense of the unknown. Human desire is drawn not to what is fully revealed, but to what is just out of reach. It's like watching a movie when you already know the ending. No matter how beautiful the story is, your heart doesn't race. There's no anticipation left. Romantic energy thrives in the feeling of, "I think there's more to discover." Once that sense disappears, the tension that makes attraction electric vanishes. In psychology, this phenomenon is known as the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains are naturally drawn to the unfinished, the unanswered, the unresolved. That melody that stops mid-note, that text left unread, that half-told story. These things grip the mind not because they're complete, but because they aren't. So if you can make her feel, "I think I understand him, but maybe there's more," then her brain can't let go of you. But the moment she feels she's figured you out completely, you may remain in her life as a comfort, but not as a source of longing. It's a delicate balance, but a powerful one. The way to maintain that emotional pull is through controlling the flow of information. You don't have to be distant, you don't have to play games, but you do need to leave some things unsaid. Let 70% of yourself be known, and let the remaining 30% remain gently in the shadows, not hidden, but not fully defined. That space becomes her imagination's canvas. Let's say she asks, "What did you do today?" A full explanation of your day might seem honest, but consider saying, "A lot happened, even something kind of funny, but I'll tell you next time." You've said something, but not everything. That open loop pulls at her thoughts. It says, "There's more to him," or she asks, "What are your goals?" Instead of giving her your 5-year plan, say, "I've got a few ideas I'm working on, but I haven't quite shaped them yet." Ask me again sometime. That subtle delay creates an emotional echo. It makes her curious, not suspicious, curious. And that curiosity is a form of connection that logic alone cannot create. This doesn't mean you never open up. It means you time your openness like a storyteller, revealing just enough to keep her leaning in. Every moment doesn't have to be a confession. Some of your depth should be felt, not explained. Expressed through how you act, not how you narrate your life. Trust doesn't require total exposure. In fact, too much too soon can feel shallow. Real depth reveals itself slowly, through trust, through time. When you hold back just a little, when you let your silences breathe, she starts to believe there's more inside you, and she wants to see it. A man who always has something new to say, something quietly thoughtful, something unexplained, that man becomes magnetic. It's not mystery for the sake of manipulation. It's the emotional grace of being whole enough to not rush into overexposure. Not everything has to be said. Some things are better felt. So when you sit with her, don't just fill every silence with words. Let your energy say something. Let your presence carry the meaning. Sometimes the words you don't say are the ones that echo longest in her mind. Men who reveal too much, too fast, often fade into the background. Not because they're unworthy, but because they leave no room for wonder. But a man who chooses his words with care, who listens more than he speaks, who leaves subtle traces of depth, that man stays in her thoughts even when he's gone. And so within that carefully crafted silence lies the third switch. Not coldness, not avoidance, but presence. Space, emotional weight. Sometimes it's not your honesty she's waiting for, it's your timing. That sense of timing, of restraint, of leaving something just beyond reach. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about honoring the emotional pacing that creates lasting intrigue. The most captivating people are not those who speak the most, but those who make others feel the most. And feelings are stirred not by information alone, but by imagination. If love is a story, then mystery is what keeps us turning the pages. That's why even small moments of ambiguity carry enormous emotional weight. A glance held a second longer than usual. A smile that hints at something unsaid. A pause before answering, as if weighing the truth before offering it. These subtle cues allow her to sense that there is more inside you. More complexity, more depth, more untold chapters. So much of emotional attraction comes down to contrast. Predictability brings comfort, but unpredictability sparks desire. A man who is always available, always explaining, always clear, may offer stability, but may struggle to ignite lasting emotional fire. On the other hand, a man who is stable but not predictable, who is kind but not overexposed, who is thoughtful but keeps a part of himself quietly protected, this man becomes unforgettable, Sometimes she'll ask something seemingly simple. What are you thinking about? And the instinct is to answer quickly, fully, openly. But what if you paused, gave a small smile and said, something interesting, but I'm still figuring it out. That one line can stay with her far longer than an entire paragraph, because now her mind has something to hold on to wonder about, to revisit when you're not around. That's not manipulation. That's mystery rooted in truth. You really are figuring it out. You really do have more layers. You just don't reveal them all at once. And that pacing creates emotional tension, the kind that keeps connection alive long after words are spoken. If you're ever unsure whether you're saying too much, ask yourself, is this helping her feel closer to me, or is it making me more predictable? Does this reveal something meaningful, or does it remove all sense of discovery? When in doubt, say less, but say it better. Let your silence carry energy. Let your restraint signal depth, and when you do speak, make it count. Offer words that reflect who she is beyond the surface. Don't just say, "You look great today." Say, "There's something about the way you carry yourself today. It feels quietly powerful." Instead of saying, "You're smart," say, "The way you explained that, I can see how deeply you think about things." These phrases go beyond praise. They tell her, "I see you, not just the version you show, but the real you." At the end of the day, these three switches, translation, mystery, and timing, aren't tricks. They're reflections of emotional intelligence. They require presence, observation, and courage. The courage not just to speak, but to listen. Not just to impress, but to feel. And the reward is something far deeper than attraction. It's connection. If your relationships have faltered, if you've ever wondered, "Was I not kind enough? Was I too honest? Did I say too much?" Consider this. Maybe it wasn't about what you didn't give. Maybe it was about what you gave too freely, too quickly, too openly. The brain doesn't respond to quantity. It responds to quality, to well-timed, emotionally grounded stimuli that speak directly to the subconscious. And this is where love reveals itself not as a fairy tale, but as an art. The art of being fully present, yet not fully revealed. The art of seeing someone deeply and expressing that vision in a way that feels intimate, rare, and earned. The art of allowing space, so that the other person's desire, curiosity, and imagination can grow on their own. Too often, we think love is about giving everything, saying everything, doing everything. But real love, the kind that lasts, is quieter, slower, more deliberate. It's the soft compliment given 3 days later, the silence that holds meaning, the mystery that invites exploration, the understanding that feels like truth, not performance. You don't need to be more charming. You don't need to chase harder. What you need is to become the kind of person who knows how to press these internal switches, not by force, but by presence, not by effort, but by attunement. And that begins not with changing how you talk to women, but how you see them. See beyond their words. Hear the emotion beneath the silence. Allow mystery to have its place. Respect the timing of emotional disclosure. And most importantly, become the kind of man who doesn't need to say everything to be understood. You may be surprised how magnetic that becomes. And maybe you've already felt this in your own life. Maybe you've known someone who said very little, but whose presence stayed with you. Someone who didn't flatter, but when they did speak, their words moved you. Someone who wasn't mysterious by design, but simply had more to them than they ever needed to explain. You can become that person, not by pretending, not by withholding, but by becoming more aware, more thoughtful, more emotionally grounded. The 3 pleasure switches in a woman's brain are not mechanical triggers. They are invitations to be felt more deeply, to be seen not as someone trying to win her affection, but as someone who lives and breathes from a place of calm emotional strength. A man who knows his worth doesn't need to perform. He only needs to remain quietly compelling. When you translate her unspoken emotions, you show her that she's safe. When you leave mystery, you invite her into a deeper emotional space. When you share with timing, you teach her that your love is not a flood, but a river, measured, steady, and endlessly flowing. Love doesn't thrive in constant exposure. It thrives in rhythm, in breath, in pulse, in the ebb and flow of silence and speech, presence and pause. The moment you master that rhythm, you stop chasing love and start becoming it. So the next time you're with her, don't ask, "What can I say to impress her?" Instead ask, "What is she feeling that she hasn't yet said?" Don't aim to explain yourself fully. Aim to be felt deeply. Don't be the man who says everything. Be the one she's still thinking about long after the conversation ends. Let her emotions unfold like music, not forced, but played with care. Let your validation echo like a whisper, not a shout. Let your mystery be an open door, not a locked room. And in that space, you'll find that love doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. It just has to be real. If something inside you stirred while listening to this, if a sentence stayed with you longer than expected, that's not an accident. It's your intuition telling you you're ready to shift, ready to stop over-explaining, ready to stop trying harder, and instead ready to listen deeper, speak less, and feel more. Become the kind of man whose silence has weight, whose words arrive like truth, and whose presence feels like a safe place she didn't know she needed. Because sometimes the deepest emotional pull doesn't come from saying more, but from saying just enough.